second. The creators of Toy Story.
Hey, what's shaking, baby? Did you lose weight? Or them?
Take you into the world behind your closet door.
Roz, you're looking fabulous today. Is that a new haircut? New makeup. You've had a lift. You've had a tuck. You've had something.
We've always been afraid monsters were there.
Scary beat, scary beat, scary beat. Come on, the kid's away.
Waiting to scare us.
Twins and a bugbear.
But what we didn't know is that we scared them.
You can't almost touch me. You can't touch a child. They're toxic. If a kid ever got through one of our doors, the results would be catastrophic.
Walt Disney Pictures presents
Kitty! That thing is a killing machine!
a Pixar Animation Studios film.
There's a kid here! A human kid! We can neither confirm nor deny the presence of a human child. Let's keep it. I always wanted a pet. Then you kill me! What are you doing?
Monsters Incorporated.
It's a musical. So help me, and cut.
So the story of Monsters Incorporated follows two monsters employed at the titular Monsters Incorporated. Top skater James P. Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, played by John Goodman, and his one-eyed partner and best friend Mike Wazowski, played by Billy Crystal. Monsters Inc. employees generate the city's power by targeting and scaring children, but they are themselves afraid that children may contaminate them. When one child enters Monstropolis, pretty much all hell breaks loose. And for Pixar, this was kind of a big deal. I mean, they had three big hits before this. Toy Story, which became the massive hit that it was 6 years prior. Bugs Life, which was not as successful, but still a hit regardless. And then Toy Story 2, which had a very troubled production history. But in the end, it turned out to be a big hit for them. And this was kind of another test to see whether or not they could still hold it together, despite everything that happened with Toy Story 2. And the results of this movie paid off pretty well. This is still a very fun, very heartwarming animated movie. And the chemistry between John Goodman and Billy Crystal is very good in this. It's very top-notch. You can really buy into their friendship as Sully and Mike. And they're just great characters overall. The world they create here, it's pretty impressive for the time period, and even still holds up to this very day. I mean, they do a pretty good job of you can tell the animation is getting better as these movies keep going forward here. This was a movie that was really testing the boundaries of what Pixar could do as a studio. The animators and the technical people did a very good job of using special render software to make sure like fur and clothing looked more realistic in this particular world in this movie. And they do a really good job of expanding the world that these characters can live in. I mean, Toy Story is pretty much straightforward when you think of the boundaries of the world that they could go into. Like in the first Toy Story, they'll go to a couple places that are outside of their home, but it's not as like grand and epic as it is in this type of movie. And even in Bugs Life, which it's on the small island, but the way they're able to like expand the world in there is very impressive in general when they're on there for most of the movie. This movie I felt like was the real test to see how far they could take it out, because not only do you have the city themselves, but when you get to see what the doors are all like, when all the doors are put into basically storage, and you see that world that they have to go through, it makes for a very fun, thrilling action climax at the end of the movie, and it's just a ton of fun. It's a very solid film, great animation, great comedy. It takes a little bit from some movies that from some shows that came before it, of course. Our Real Monsters comes to mind in particular with this type of film, but they find a way to make something unique and very different with it, and for the most part, it generally does work very well. It's a very well-made film, a quality film overall. Not much more I can say about this one that hasn't already been said. Monsters Incorporated is a classic movie. Maybe not as much as the next movie, not as much, but it's still very notable for a number of different things. Let's talk about The One.
The power of The One. The One is incredible, with the most breathtaking action scenes since The Matrix. Jet Li is The One. Rated PG-13. Now play. He's a deadly force from another universe. He can defy gravity, alter time, bend reality. And on November 2nd, he's escaping! He will discover the portal to our world. We have a problem here. There's never been anything like what I have now. Jet Li is The One. Rated PG-13. The chase is on November 2nd.
Solo 1, it was sold as a movie that was basically a Matrix clone, and Chris Stuckman, I think, said it best when he talked about this movie. It's a cheesy ripoff of The Matrix, but a fun, cheesy ripoff of The Matrix, and he's kind of right on that. I've seen this movie before, but let me tell you about the plot of this movie. The film deals with the concept of multiverses and interdimensional travel, and it follows this rogue agent, played by Jet Li, who travels to parallel realities in order for him to kill other versions of himself to become a mystical super being known as the One. Lee plays a dual role. He actually plays 9 roles in this movie. So in a way, this is kind of a precursor to something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where you have all the characters in that movie being played by the same actors. But Lee plays a dual role where he teams up with a deputy sheriff who teams up with a multiverse agent to prevent Yulaw, one of the characters he plays, from becoming the One. And yeah, it's definitely very much a cheesy ripoff of The Matrix, but it has kind of that unique charm to it that makes me feel like, okay, I gotta give you credit for this. I mean, this is a movie that's really, like, it's really insane. It's really over the top. I mean, the effects in the movie are very bad. I mean, this is not a quality film overall. In fact, I actually remember wanting to see this movie in a theater, and when I was little, and I'm thinking maybe now that I've seen the movie, I'm kind of thinking to myself, maybe I'm glad I didn't go see this on a big screen, because I don't know, I'd probably be let down by it, but then again, maybe not. I mean, it's weird how I was gonna say, this is before digital cinema too, so this probably could have looked good without the. It's not on digital cinema, but I think once digital cinema came around, I think it really showed what you should do when it comes to like CG and visual effects and all that, and how they're gonna look on the screen, because this was before that, and I think maybe I could have gotten used to it if I'd seen it in theaters, but I'm kind of glad I waited to check this one out, because, yeah, it's a cheesy movie, but it's a fun, cheesy movie. It's a fun, cheesy movie for the time period. I like that it doesn't take itself too seriously. Directed by James Wong, who gave us Final Destination. I think it's a fun movie. I enjoy it a lot. I mean, it's a ridiculous movie, but a fun, ridiculous movie, too. So, I recommend it on that front. So, with that said, let us move on to our next film, and that is John Travolta and Vince Vaughn in the thriller Domestic Disturbance.
Friday.
He killed a guy. Saw him do it dead.
You're a little liar, aren't you, Danny?
The father he trusts.
Dan masters just about everybody, but he didn't lie to me.
He must protect him from the stepfather he fears.
Do you think I'm going to endanger my own child by marrying a killer?
John Travolta.
I have never failed Danny, ever, and I'm not going to fail him now.
Vince Vaughn.
This is between you and me.
Domestic Disturbance. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday everywhere.
So it's basically just a big budget version of The Stepfather, except Terry O'Quinn is not in it, and they've replaced him with Vince Vaughn, and the guy that go up against Vince Vaughn. But in this movie, you have a woman played by Terry Polo who's getting married to a wealthy industrialist played by Vince Vaughn. Danny, her teenage son with ex-husband Frank, played by John Travolta, isn't happy about this. He stows away Rick's car one night, planning to go to Frank's house, but while there, he witnesses Rick murdering mysterious stranger Ray Coleman. Problem is, Rick's managed to dispose of most of the evidence, and he's considered a pillar of the community, and Danny has a history of lying. Frank believes him, though, and does see some investigating of his own as Rick's shady's past slowly catches up to him and his new family. And what's funny about this movie is that Vince Vaughn pretty much was an asshole in real life, because he literally got arrested and charged for fighting in public with people outside of the making of the movie. And Steve Buscemi, one of the guys he was working on with the movie, was stabbed several times, and basically he had to go to court, and he entered a no contest plea, and the minor charges he had were dropped about 6 months later. So he was a monster in real life and in this movie, But yeah, the movie itself is pretty much what you think it is. If you saw The Stepfather, it's pretty much that movie. It's that film that's just kind of like, oh, this is like, I mean, honestly, this would be like a movie that would be seen as the made-for-TV movie of the week on CBS or NBC around this time period. I mean, this doesn't feel like a movie that needs to be seen on a big screen, except for the fact that, hey, we got Johnny Depp. Hey, we got Vince Vaughn. I mean, box office gold, I guess. But, I don't know. I don't think so. But, it wasn't even that big of a success. It only made $54 million back on a $75 million budget. So, yeah, it was not a financial success by any means necessary. I think people kind of knew early on what they were heading into when they saw this movie. It's just like, yeah, this ain't going to work for me. I mean, I've seen this done much better in many other films, and this film really does feel like something that's been done so much better in other movies. So, yeah, it didn't work in particular. So it's just kind of like, yeah, it was a bomb from the get-go. So yeah, not too many good things to say about Domestic Disturbance. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, the Coen Brothers' latest film, and that is The Man Who Wasn't There.
Time Magazine, Rolling Stone, The Washington Post, Ebert and Roper, The Los Angeles Times, People Magazine, The New York Times. Critics are raving about The Man Who Wasn't There. From the creators of Fargo and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, comes one of the year's best films.
What kind of man are you?
The Man Who Wasn't There. Rated R. Now playing in select theaters.
Yeah, before we jump into the review, can I take a look at that last scene again? R-rated for a scene of violence. So you're telling me if they took that scene of violence out, this would probably be rated PG-13, right? I mean, this was around the time when they were really putting the thing underneath the ratings in particular about what was in the movie and all that. But a scene of violence. So wouldn't that mean every PG-13 action movie at this point would have to be rated R because of that scene of violence? I mean, what makes this scene of violence so unique that it has to have that underneath it? I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of amusing when I saw that. But The Man Who Wasn't There, this is a film set in 1949, and it tells the story of Ed Crane, played by Billy Bob Thornton, who is a withdrawn barber who leads an ordinary life in a small California town with his wife, who he suspects is having an affair with her boss. The Crane situation changes when a stranger comes into the barbershop and offers him an opportunity to join him as a partner in a promising new business in exchange for an investment of $10,000. Drawn to the idea, Crane plans to blackmail his wife's lover for the money. It's a movie that's basically set in black and white, employs a lot of voiceover narration, basically an homage to classic film noir. It has like classical music set to plot in a small town, features a protagonist from outside the criminal underworld. It's a movie that's very similar to what the Coen Brothers had done with the Hudsucker Proxy a couple years ago, which I think is a much better movie overall. Not to say that this movie is bad per se, but it's a movie that definitely... That trailer pretty much tells you that this movie was not meant to be a film that was supposed to be widely marketed to people, because, quite frankly, you couldn't tell what the movie is. If you were a member of the general public, you couldn't really tell what the movie was trying to sell you on in the long run. Like, what were they trying to sell you with that? I mean, like, hey, everybody loves this movie, you should go check it out. Okay, what's it about? Well, we can't tell you that. It's just like... And to me, I think that's the worst thing about the movie in particular, is that the movie feels like it doesn't know how to sell itself. But at the same time, though, it's not a bad movie. It's a movie that has a lot of good things about it. A good cast: Billy Bob Thornton, Frances McDormand, Michael Badalucco, Richard Jenkins, Scarlett Johansson, Tony Shalhoub, James Gandolfini. Terrific cast. Great cinematography, once again, by Roger Deakins. It's the Coen Brothers doing what they do so well, but maybe a little too well. Maybe it's one of those ones where it does feel like a film that is for a very niche audience, and one that would not sell to everybody in particular. And I think that really hurts in the long run when it comes to the film's success in the box office, because it did not do so successfully at the box office, not too surprisingly, because of the fact that the marketing didn't really sell the film that well. But certainly not one of the worst things the Coen Brothers have done. I mean, they've done much worse than this, but like I said, it's not even a bad movie. It's just underwhelming, especially when you consider that these guys were coming off 3 great movies in a row, with Fargo, and then The Big Lebowski, and then Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and then this was their next movie. And it's like, yeah, it's fine. It's definitely could have been a whole lot better, though, all things considered. So that's The Man Who Wasn't There. Now let's go ahead and move on to the last film we have here, and that is the romantic drama Amelie.
Once upon a time, in a magical place called Paris, there lived a young woman who decided to change other people's lives for the better. Over 150 top critics agree Amelie is one of the best pictures of the year. The New York Times calls it a dazzling achievement. And now it's the winner of 4 European Film Awards, including Best Picture of the Year. Believe in the magic of Amelie. Eligible in all categories, including Best Picture. Rated R.
So Amelie is really more of a French romantic comedy. I think I said it was a drama, but it's more of a comedy. And it follows a whimsical depiction of a contemporary Parisian life set in Montmartre. It tells the story of a shy, introverted, and quirky waitress played by Audrey Tautou, who decides to change the lives of those around her for the better while dealing with her own isolation. And it's one of those movies that really is one of those ones where you think it's going to be like a really lazy chick flick overall. Or as Jay Sherman likes to say in The Critic, pretentious, snooty French films, But no, it's a surprisingly delightful and very charming romantic film. makes you realize that, the director of Alien Resurrection is actually a lot better than that movie gave him credit for. I mean, Alien Resurrection was one of those ones where it's just like, what are you doing in this movie? I mean, like, who decided that this guy should be directing that? But here's a movie that makes you say, okay, this guy actually has some value to him. He's actually a good director. And he does show here. The visual look of the movie is incredible. Like, the visuals are really the strongest elements of the movie. Like, it's beautiful to look at. The cinematography is top-notch. The way the city looks is amazing. And Audrey Tautou, I think, gives a great performance overall to lift the spirit of the film overall. It's a very unique film on so many different levels. It's a film that very much is very compelling. It's very much a movie that keeps your attention throughout the course of its running time. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite movies, Midnight in Paris. I mean, it's a movie that lets you see the beauty of Paris in a way that you've never experienced it before. This one does it more artistically, but I like Midnight in Paris a little bit better, even though it's more simplistic. But this is a movie that I really, really have grown to appreciate over the years. It's one I kind of steered away from it because, like I said, it looked like a cheesy rom-com, but it's a film that I'm really much surprised I did not get to see the first time around because, man, I really love this movie. I think it's a very good film that really deserves a lot more attention. Beautiful to look at, a very well-made film, good storytelling overall, great cast overall. It's a great movie. It's one you probably have not seen, but please check out Amélie, man. Like, it's definitely worth it. If you're looking for a good romantic comedy and a good French film, a really good French film, a modern-day French film, I should say, this is definitely one of those ones that you should definitely check out. Amélie's great.
Every man has a dream. Every man has a fantasy. Every man has an image of the perfect woman.
When are you gonna get it?
What are you talking about?
It never occurred to you that picking girls solely on their looks may not be the best way to go about it?
But one man is about to get a whole new perspective.
Al Larson, I'm going to do you a great favor.
Really?
From this moment on, whenever you meet someone in the future, you're only going to see the inner beauty.
What are you doing? I am rescuing you. From what? From what?
This fall,
I gave them the ability to see the inner beauty of their heart, their soul.
He hypnotized you.
You're saying that all the pretty girls I've met lately aren't really pretty.
Hal Larson is dating a vision only he can see.
Oh, there she is. There's Rosemary.
Where?
Right there.
Is she behind the rhino?
20th Century Fox presents
Haven't you ever heard the phrase that beauty is in the eye of the beholder?
Have you heard the song Who Let the Dogs Out?
Gwyneth Paltrow,
Oh,
Jack Black,
Are you okay?
brain freeze.
Jason Alexander,
I don't want anything to do with you, you little warthog.
You had me at Get Lost.
in a comedy of gigantic proportions.
What? You want to see a splash? I'm going to show you a splash. Ready?
Hey, Billy, stay over near the ladder.
Shallow Hal.
Billy? Billy?
Daddy! Daddy!
I mean, that kid probably could have gotten a whole lot worse, but I digress. So, Shallow Hal, you can see in the trailer there, you have Jack Black as a guy who falls in love with a woman who is actually 300 pounds after being hypnotized into only seeing a person's inner beauty. And, surprisingly, this is probably the most heartwarming film the Farrelly brothers have done up to this point, and probably since then. I mean, it's a movie that actually is kind of heartwarming, but it still has that Farrelly brothers edge, you know. It still has that aspects of something like There's Something About Mary or Me, Myself, and Irene, but it's a PG-13 movie, and it's a really good PG-13 movie. I think this movie gets unfairly criticized because some people don't think the comedy works as well. Some people think it's a little bit too offensive to, obese women in particular, but I thought the movie kind of was making fun of the fact that, this guy you have Tony Robbins, who I like that he's making fun of himself in this movie, basically saying, "Hey, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to make you realize the inner beauty in people, and you're going to, You're going to see it with these people. You got a really good chemistry between Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow. Like, you really do buy that these two do have a connection, and you do really do believe they do like each other, even though Jack Black is really not seeing the actual person in real life. But that's kind of what I really like about the movie overall. I like the fact that the movie basically is doing this idea that, okay, let's have a story where you have somebody who's going to be given this gift to basically say, hey, here's the inner beauty. You're going to see the inner beauty, even though you're not going to see the outer beauty of it. And over time, you're going to realize that, hey, you two actually do have a good connection with one another, and it actually does work very well here. And if there's one thing I will say against the movie, it's really the character of Jason Alexander's character, Mauricio, who, I mean, you see it in the trailer there. Like, you don't expect George Costanza to be doing that now in 2001. I mean, I know it's only been 3 years up to this point since Seinfeld ended, but then again, that seems like a character that seemed like it was really, really hard, to get to play that role. In fact, they tried to get Gary Shandling to play that role. Even he would have not been well written for that character. I felt like you had to go for a younger guy to play that role. Maybe not too young, but certainly you couldn't go somebody with older tendencies like, Gary Shandling or Jason Alexander. No matter how great they are as comedians, I felt like that was going to be a tough character to cast overall in this film. And yeah, it does kind of go into predictable rom-com territory. You're going to have that moment where the liar gets revealed, and, he has to come to this, and, they're going to break up for a little bit, then they'll reconcile again, they'll go back to the way they were, and it's there, but it's not as bad as it is in most romantic comedies. It's actually done pretty well in this movie, as well as everything else here. The humor is very well done. Like, it's a very heartfelt storyline, but it also feels like what you get from a Farrelly Brothers movie, and I really liked it a lot. I think it's a much better movie than people give it credit for. I think it's a good showcase for Jack Black to show that, hey, this guy actually has got some talent to him. I really like this movie a lot. I think it's a very well-made film. It's got some flaws to it, but it's not as bad as I think people make it out to be. I think it is a very funny film, and I really do like it a lot. I think it is a very strong film. I highly recommend it. Shallow Hal. So, with that said, let's move on to David Mamet's newest film with Gene Hackman and Danny DeVito, and that is Heist.
What made you a criminal? What made you a criminal? Nothing made me a criminal. I am a criminal. Broke his tie and cops are looking for him. I gotta get out of town. I gotta go. You've just become more trouble than you're worth. I hate to do anything as dramatic as count to three, but 1, 2, 3.
Gene Hackman, Danny DeVito, in a film by David Mamet.
He's so cool when he goes to bed, sheep count him.
Heist, rated R, starts Friday.
So you have Gene Hackman playing a career jewel thief who finds himself at tense odds with his longtime partner, played by Danny DeVito, a crime boss who sends his nephew to keep watch. And you see Delroy Lindo in here, as well as Sam Rockwell. And it's very interesting that this movie is probably the most successful movie to come out of Franchise Pictures outside of the whole 9 Yards movies. But then again, it's David Mamet, and David Mamet is a solid writer and director, and not even a guy like him can be reduced to making such a terrible movie under a company as terrible as Franchise Pictures. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen with him. And he makes a really solid movie out of it. I mean, it's a very slick, very stylish heist movie. And it's interesting to see these people that I like playing very different roles. Gene Hackman's very good in this role. I mean, he's clearly an older guy, but he can make this. He can still be very threatening when he needs to be. Danny DeVito can surprisingly work very well as the kind of the bad guy in this. Delroy Lindo's very good in this. So Sam Rockwell. It's a really, really good film, and I think it was mostly because Franchise Pictures themselves did not create it. They literally said that, David, you're gonna have creative freedom throughout the production. We know you, and we're we're not gonna force you to do what we've done with our terrible movies. We're just gonna let you do you, man. Like, they literally gave him the keys to do whatever he wanted to do with it. And sure enough, the movie works because of it. Because you don't have Franchise Pictures getting involved. You don't have them trying to create a new franchise out of something absolutely horrible. And, just let the guy do what he does best. And lo and behold, he makes a really solid, very slick, very intelligent crime thriller. And a really good one at best. It's a very good film. I highly recommend it. It's one that I know a lot of people didn't go see when it came out. But it has gone on to have a major following over the years. And, I highly recommend checking it out. If you like Gene Hackman, if you like Danny DeVito, if you like really good David Mamet style work, this definitely is up your alley. This is definitely one of David Mamet's stronger, underrated gems. Definitely check this one out, Heist. So let's move on to our last film that we have here, and that is Life as a House.
Critics are saying Life as a House connects to its audience more honestly than any other movie this year. Rich with natural comedy, Kevin Kline gives one of his most deeply felt performances in the film the New York Times says is generating the kind of buzz not seen since American Beauty.
Change can be so constant. You don't even feel a difference until there is one. Happened to me.
Life as a House, rated R, starts Friday.
Awards bait. I should probably just set my review there. Awards bait. I mean, that's literally what this movie is, but I'll talk more about this. You have a story with Kevin Kline as a man who is anxious to repair his relationship with his ex-wife, played by Kristen Scott Thomas, and his teenage son, played by Hayden Christensen, after he's diagnosed with terminal cancer. This is directed by Irwin Winkler, who has, of course, directed several films that we've talked about on here, Guilty by Suspicion, Night in the City, The Net, At First Sight. He also produced a lot of classic movies like the Rocky films. But, yeah, this movie clearly is a film that is just Oscar bait. I mean, it's a movie that's trying to give Kevin Kline another Academy Award. I keep saying almost Kevin Costner. But no, this feels like a film that is clearly going for awards bait. Even though there are good performances, Kevin Kline's always going to give a great performance. I mean, he's Kevin Kline. Hayden Christensen, as bad as he was about to be with Anakin Skywalker with Attack of the Clones and moving forward from that, he shows that he can be a really good actor in this movie. He's very good as the teenage son. Jenna Malone, this is one of her early film roles as well. Mary Steenburgen, it's Mary Steenburgen. I mean, come on. And Kristen Scott Thomas is a great actor. There's a lot of great actors all over this movie, and they're the things that carry the movie overall and make it somewhat watchable. But everything else about it, from the story to the way the characters are written, I mean, they're not well-written characters, but they work because the performances carry the load of the film. But the story, it's a movie that's clearly going for your heart, tugging at your heartstrings, and hopefully to grab some awards come February. And it just didn't work for me. It's a movie that's just kind of like, as much as I can praise the performances all I want to, I can't get past the fact that it's another one of those melodramatic awards bait movies where nobody's really trying and they're just saying, hey, give us awards for this. And it just didn't work for me, unfortunately. Let down for sure. Life as a House.
There's no such thing as magic.
Dear Mr. Potter, you have been accepted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Soon, you and your schoolmates will join us here, and your education in the magical arts shall begin.
Harry, you're the boy who lived.
Or as they call it in the UK, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. But yeah, that was the trailer that premiered in March of 2001 and was partially the reason why C-Spot Run did so well, because people saw that trailer and probably walked out after the move after that. But this is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the first movie of the Harry Potter series based off the series of books by J.K. Rowling. Back when we liked Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, and now it's not like now where we pretty much are tired of Harry Potter. We're especially tired of J.K. Rowling, but I digress. Basic plot of this movie, it's the first year of Harry Potter's time at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Mystery, where he discovers that he is a famous wizard and begins his formal wizarding education. Now, this film went through some interesting little... Warner Brothers bought the film rights to this back in 1999, back when the the series kind of started to begin its popularity overall, and there were a number of different directors they were looking at. They were looking at people like Steven Spielberg was on the short list for this, so was Rob Reiner. Let me see if I can find some of the other ones here that they were looking at. They were also looking at maybe, here we go, Terry Gilliam, which would have been very interesting. Mike Newell, who would actually later direct The Goblet of Fire. Alan Parker, Wolfgang Peterson. Ivan Reitman probably would have been an interesting choice. Tim Robbins was going to direct it, was one of the directors in mind. Brad Silberling, who did Casper. M. Night Shyamalan, who had just come off The Sixth Sense. Peter Weir. They eventually decided to go with Chris Columbus, mostly because of his success throughout the course of the 90s. I mean, this is the guy that directed the Home Alone movies, Mrs. Doubtfire. And he was given the task to make, essentially, a kid's adventure film. And people forget that the Harry Potter series did start off as a kid's adventure film. And a kid's adventure series, per se, because, of course, these kids grow. Of course, these are kids when the books start. And then when the series moves forward, they become adults. And that's why there was actually a lot of concern about Columbus doing this, because they didn't like the fact that he made a kids movie. Most audiences thought he didn't want to do this. They thought that he was a little too into the idea of doing. They were too in the idea that that this would be kids, and that the Harry Potter story felt like more. It was becoming more adult at this point, with the fourth book already out by this point. But that's kind of like I said, that's kind of the point of these movies. Like, they're supposed to start off as kids' adventures, and as the series goes forward, they become more adult, they become more darker. And I had no problem with Chris Columbus directing this at all, because I felt like he was the perfect guy to direct a movie like this. He has a good cast that very much fits the characters, kind of what you'd expect to see from the books. I mean, Daniel Radcliffe is a good choice for Harry Potter. Rupert Grint is a good choice for Ron Weasley. Emma Watson is a good choice for Hermione. And you have a strong cast involved in this movie. John Cleese, Robbie Coltrane, Warwick Davis, Richard Griffiths, Richard Harris, Ian Hart, John Hurd, Alan Rickman, Fiona Shaw, Maggie Smith, Julie Walters. Just an incredible cast in this movie. And you can see from that trailer, the production design of this, it feels like something right out of the book. And I think they did a phenomenal job of handing this to a guy like Columbus who can make this work so well. And it was one of the risky gambles Warner Brothers had at that time. The other one we'll talk about in just a little bit, in a couple of weeks, a couple of days, I should say, because we're going to get to Lord of the Rings later on. That was a bigger gamble for, especially New Line Cinema, but this was a kind of a big gamble as well. I mean, nobody really could have predicted that this was going to launch into what most of these family fantasy films would become in the latter half, for the rest of the 21st century up to this point, because everyone wants to try to get their own Harry Potter-style series, and very few times it worked. The Twilight films were successful, so were the Hunger Games, both at Lionsgate. Other times, not so much. Everyone was trying to create their the next Harry Potter franchise, and 9 times out of 10, it didn't really succeed all the time, but when it did, they did something unique and different with it, and we're gonna get more into these as we keep going forward here, because Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone did become the big success that it was, and rightfully so, because it's a really good adaptation of the first book. It's a good introduction to these characters, and it's a good way to show that, hey, this is how this is. We're going to do these stories the way that they were intended to be seen on the big screen, and the next couple of movies would show that these films got better and nearly got better and better with every passing film. I mean, not much more to say about this one, really. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, even if you're not the biggest Harry Potter fan, if you're not the biggest fan of the novels, I still think you could find a lot about this movie to really like about it. And I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth the watch. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a really good movie. And studios had the balls to go up against it. There were 2 studio films in particular, but mostly on limited release, though. But let's talk about some of the other releases that came out on this weekend, because apparently Lionsgate wanted to try to take some of the Harry Potter money away from Warner Brothers, and didn't really succeed all that well with our next film. And that is, of course, The Wash.
You got a call about the music. I don't hear any music, but we'll try to keep it down. Turn that back up.
Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, DJ Pooh, George Wallace, The Wash.
The second film from DJ Pooh, who also did 3 Strikes, but I also found out he's done a lot for Grand Theft Auto. Like, he's one of the writers and co-producers on Grand Theft Auto. He was on the Boondocks. He did, of course, the Friday movies. He's done a ton of stuff that I was not too familiar with. He was on Freaknik the Musical. This was his second film he made as a filmmaker, and it's basically just a 2000s equivalent to something like Car Wash. I mean, it's literally a knockoff of Car Wash. Like, you have Life at the Car Wash is a place in Los Angeles where anything can and does happen to two friends played by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg trying to earn money to pay their rent. Snoop Dogg is, of course, in here along with Dr. Dre, Tiny Zeus Lister, George Wallace, Tommy Chong is also in here, Shaquille O'Neal, Pauly Shore, Ludacris. I've never seen this movie, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but judging from the reviews for this, well, then again, this is kind of a stoner movie, and stoner movies can be funny, even though they are very stupid and very silly at times, so I'm not really going to say for certain if this is if this is probably a bad movie or not, because this did not get great reviews. Like, it got, I think it's 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, but then again, sometimes stoner movies can actually be funny, so I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe this has a following that I'm not too aware of, but from the looks of it, it looks like what you think it's going to be. It doesn't look like a movie that's really all that impressive overall, but then again, maybe it is. Maybe it's something that has a cult following to it that I'm not too aware of. If anyone has seen The Wash out there, is it any good? I'd be really curious to see if it is. I mean, I've never really had an interest to check it out, but you never know. Could actually be something funny. But that trailer wasn't really looking that confident, though. But I digress. Let's take a look at the last one that I have seen, and that is Steve Martin in the dark comedy Novocaine.
Dentist, give me back what you took. I won't say a word to anyone. If we were to discover you selling drugs, we'd have to go ahead and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
Your boss here is making threats to my sister.
I don't know who your sister is. Oh, you, friend.
You lied to me. And then you went to this girl's hotel room?
There's nothing to worry about. It was just a little misunderstanding. You think you can forgive me? Come on.
This is a really bad idea.
Steve Martin, Helena Bonham Carter, Laura Dern, Scott Kahn.
You roll into town, you line up a few dentists, or do you hit doctors too?
Dentists are easier. They're dumber. No offense.
Novocaine.
It's always nice to see Steve Martin do movies like this. I mean, this guy has a lot of talent all over the place. He's a great comedian. He can be a great dramatic actor. But he can do movies like this that really elevate a film to another level when he's involved. You have him playing a straight-laced dentist who, because of one innocent lie, finds his tidy, prosperous life transformed into a comic quagmire of illicit sex, illegal drugs, and inexplicable murder in this brilliantly offbeat, bitingly comedic film. This is directed by David Atkins, who, as far as I know, has not directed anything else of noteworthiness since then, but he has written stuff like a Hot Tub Time Machine. I'm trying to see what else he was involved in. I think that's it. I think he just wrote Hot Tub Time Machine after this, and it's a shame because this is a pretty fun movie. I mean, it's great seeing Steve Martin recapturing a little bit of this. I mean, looking at this, you would almost think to yourself that he's kind of an older version of his character from Little Shop of Horrors. I mean, that's kind of hard not to see that at this point while I'm watching this performance. So you have him in there, and you also have a cast that includes Elias Koteas, Scott Kahn, Laura Dern, Lynn Thigpen, Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, it's a really good movie, man. It's a really fun black comedy, and it works so well. It works also very well if you just think of Steve Martin as the dentist from Little Shop of Horrors. Because, man, when I saw him in Little Shop of Horrors and I see this movie, it's hard not to think that this is an older version of that character from that movie, man. Because it's just like... And it's Steve Martin giving it his all, man. Like, Steve Martin really does give it his all in movies like this, where he can take it to another level. It wasn't received well by most critics and audiences, but it's one of those dark comedies where it just works because he's there and he has a great cast to work with, and just he gets a chance to do whatever he wants to do in this, and it works pretty well for the most part. I mean, I love this movie. Novocaine, it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it.
Where did you learn to shoot? Boy Scout, sir.
2 men in a game.
Central Intelligence. You've been working for me, mostly undercover.
Where all they have...
God, you're hideous. Why do you even bother? Missed you, too.
...is each other.
Tom Bishop has been arrested for espionage.
I'm getting him out. From the director of Crimson Tide and Enemy of the State.
They know. They don't know. They'll be waiting.
Spy Game.
Where are you? Coming home.
Rated R. At theaters November 21st.
So in the movie Spy Game, you have Robert Redford playing a CIA operative on the brink of retirement when he finds out that his protege, played by Brad Pitt, has been arrested in China for espionage. No strangers to the machinations of the CIA's top echelon, mirror hones in all of his skills in a reverent manner in order to find a way to free Bishop. As he embarks on his mission to free Bishop, Mir recalls how he recruited and trained the young rookie. At the time as sergeant in Vietnam, their turbulent times together as operatives as the woman threatens their friendship. It's funny because there was another movie that came out the week after this, Behind Enemy Lines, which kind of has a similar plot to it with Gene Hackman and Owen Wilson. But this one here, directed by Tony Scott, who gave us Enemy of the State, Crimson Tide, Top Gun. A pretty solid action director overall. This movie in particular, it's a decent movie. It works mostly because of Robert Redford and Brad Pitt. You see these two legendary actors working together in a movie, and it shows off in various ways in this particular film. The one thing against the movie that I will say is that the spy aspect here, the thriller aspect here, is not really as good as it should be. I mean, you have Tony Scott directing this. He's a great action director, and a script that's not really all that well put together. This writer, this is Michael Frost Beckner, David Arado. David Arado actually wrote Children of Men that came out a couple years later, as well as some other notable films like Broke Down Palace, and he actually wrote what else did he write? I thought I saw something here. Maybe not. Maybe it's just those notable films. I never heard of this movie, The Angel, that he wrote for Netflix, but I mean, he did write Children of Men, and that's a great movie overall, but I don't know. I think the spy aspect overall in the movie is very mediocre. There's not really a whole lot there to get. There's not a big like twist or turn that you don't see coming a mile away. But I think the movie does get by the action overall and the characters of Robert Redford and Brad Pitt that they play, because it's two great actors like Robert Redford and Brad Pitt working off each other. I think that's more than enough to carry the film just a little bit over the edge, but it's definitely not one of the better spy films out there. I mean, it's fine for what it is, but you definitely feel like it could have been a whole lot better with the talent that they had involved in this. So, fine for what it is, but not one I'm going to watch on repeat several times. That's Spy Game. So, let's go ahead and move on to our next film, which is Martin Lawrence in the comedy Black Knight.
Positively medieval.
It is the year 1928.
Oh, it's 9th century.
What is that, man?
Food is roadkill. It's not his fight.
So you'll help with the rebellion.
Oh, no, I got to get out of here. Power to the people! With Martin Lawrence, he's going to live the nightlife. That's a nice cold steel. Black Knight, rated PG-13. Do you mock me? Do you love me? November 21st.
Just take a kid in King Arthur's court and replace the kid with a black guy, and that black guy is Martin Lawrence. It's literally that. Lawrence plays a theme park employee who's transported through time to medieval England. And it's pretty much just a kid in King Arthur's court, except with a more adult edge to it, and not quite as memorable as a kid in King Arthur's court, which wasn't that memorable to begin with, but at least in that movie there were more memorable moments to it. I mean, there were more things about it that I can look back on and say, okay, it was cheesy and corny, but there's some fun aspects to that film. This, on the other hand, just feels like a film that was just a bad idea from the get-go and kind of killed the directing career of the director of this, who did 10 Things I Hate About You, and this was the last thing he directed that went to theaters, because he went straight to DVD, straight to home TV. Like, his career died hard after this movie came out. I mean, this was not a good movie per se. It's pretty bad. I mean, the jokes, you pretty much can tell what they're going to do. You can pretty much tell where it's going to go. The writing isn't really that sharp. It doesn't help that the writers of this, for the most part, are all white, if I'm not mistaken. Peter Galkey, Daryl J. Quarles, Jerry Swallow. If I remember correctly, I think they're all white, and they're trying to write a movie where it's Martin Lawrence is the main focus of the film, and I don't think it really worked out to their advantage here, especially in this film. It's just a mess on so many levels. It's a film that's pretty bad right off the bat. Not much more I can say about it, man. It's just a forgettable movie, man. It's not even that it's a bad film. It's just so bland and so forgettable, and it's just kind of like, what was the point of this altogether? Like, who was this made for? And why were we on this medieval hike in 2001? I guess everyone thought that stuff like Gladiator was going to lead into, like, more period piece, medieval type of things, because we had A Knight's Tale earlier in the year, and then we had this movie. But, yeah, Black Knight's not that great of a film overall. But here is a funny comedy that came out on the same weekend that you probably have never even heard of. It's actually much better than you give it credit for. It's called Out Cold.
A place where the thrill is all that matters. Rick Rambis and his friends are the best of the best. They
know what they want. I know that I'm in love with her. So, still want to hook up?
You're gonna try a lot harder than that, Rick.
So, still want to hook up. On November 21st,
The competition is on.
out cold.
He's passed out.
Gonna need 10 pounds of salt.
So Out Cold takes place in Bull Mountain, Alaska. It's a no-frills ski resort, and the staff is a bunch of partying snowboard bums. The late founder, Papa Muntz, who was famed for skiing with his butt exposed, and is in fact so memorialized by a statue, but his son Ted plans to sell the resort to a hotshot ski mogul played by John Majors, who starts turning it into a slick hotel, which of course has no room for most of the staff. The exception is Rick, the most serious of the bunch, but there's a complication. Rick meets Major's stepdaughter Anna on vacation in Mexico, and he's never gotten over a crush he had on her, even though she's about to marry a great guy, and Rick is also fiercely loyal to his friends. So the plot there, you can pretty much tell, is pretty much Casablanca. It's a modern version of Casablanca, mixed with a little bit of Caddyshack in there, too, and you see some notable names in the film. Jason London, Willie Garson, Lee Majors as John Majors, A.J. Cook, Zach Galifianakis, David Koechner, David Denham, Caroline DeVernis, Thomas Lenzo also in the film as well. It's a movie that should be bad from the get-go. I mean, the trailers made it look bad, but it's one of those ones that really is surprisingly very good. Like, the fact that they were able to make a number of references to Casablanca and actually have a plot that makes it work as well as it does here, it's surprisingly really good. Like, I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. This is one that's actually a lot funnier than I think a lot of people give it credit for. It's a gross-out comedy. It's not a very good PG-13 gross-out comedy, but when it's not doing the gross-out stuff, the comedy that is in here is actually really good. And you do like the chemistry between all the characters in the movie. All the characters in here are well acted. The writing overall is really well done. You can tell that they took a lot of references to Casablanca, and they have a love for that film. And that's one of my favorite films of all time. And it works actually a lot better than I think people give it credit for. I think it is a very underrated gem. It's a really funny movie. If you haven't seen Out Cold, go into it with a little bit of optimism. It's actually a lot better than you would probably give it credit for. I mean, it's a really funny movie. It's one that I definitely say check it out because you might be missing a great little gem right here. So that's Out Cold. Let's go ahead and move on to our next film, which is Edward Burns' latest film, Sidewalks of New York.
Are you flirting with me?
I was hoping it was kind of obvious, but I guess I'm not doing that good a job.
And getting on with the business of life.
If you divorce this guy, you call me that day, and I'll jump on a plane no matter where I am in the country. I'll fly back here, I'll take you out that night.
Sidewalks of New York.
So Sidewalks of New York follows 8 cycles in the life of 6 Manhattan residents whose interconnections form a circle that places each of them less than the proverbial 6 degrees of separation from the other. And you have Edward Burns, Rosario Dawson, Dennis Farina, Heather Graham, Brittany Murphy, and Stanley Tucci among the cast in the movie here. Edward Burns has made a couple of really good movies in his early career, but this is definitely one of those ones that's not quite as good as I think it should be. In fact, he kind of went on a downward spiral after this because he didn't really make anything too great again until he made the switch over to television, and I think he's been having much better work on television overall. But it's a film that I think definitely could have been a whole lot better considering the cast that he has involved in this film. It's a great cast overall. I mean, Edward Burns, Dawson, Krumholtz, Brittany Murphy, Stanley Tucci, Heather Graham, Dennis Farina. It wants to be kind of like a modern Woody Allen film mixed in with a little bit of Sex and the City. You can get the vibes from that because of the appreciation for New York City. But Woody Allen definitely has a master craftsman for making New York City an integral part of his storylines. Sex and the City in the early years of the TV series did that as well. Not the movies though, but I don't know. Edward Burns, good director overall, but this was kind of the film that I think a lot of people were starting to get tired of his shtick, and I don't think he never really got out of it as a filmmaker. I don't think he's ever made another movie that was as good as something like The Brothers McMullen or She's the One. But it's not a bad movie per se. It's just not one that's memorable altogether. It's a film that's just kind of like, whatever. It's like there's nothing really about it that makes it stand out or anything, despite some decent performances all around. Definitely feels like a film that could have been so much better than it actually is. But let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is In the Bedroom.
An older woman her ex-husband.
Where are they, with him?
None of your business.
They're my boys, but they're none of my business.
The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Los Angeles film critics all say it's the best film of the year. And now it's nominated for 3 Golden Globe Awards, including Best Picture of the Year. The secrets are about to be revealed in the bedroom.
I know what you think, but I let him get away with everything!
Rated R, now in theaters everywhere.
So In the Bedroom stars Sissy Spacek, Tom Wilkinson, Nick Stahl, Marissa Tomei, and it centers on the inner dynamics of a family in transition. Wilkinson plays a doctor practicing in Maine and is married to Sissy Spacek, a music teacher. Their son is involved with a love affair with an older single mother, played by Marissa Tomei. At the beauty of Maine's brief and fleeting summer comes to an end, the characters find themselves in the midst of an unimaginable tragedy. And it's one of those movies that feels like an Oscar bait type of film. And definitely shows. I mean, this film did get several nominations, including Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay. But it's a film that I don't think really a lot of people remember overall. Todd Field has made a couple of other films since then, Little Children and Tar, which I think are much better movies overall. But as far as this film goes, from the little bits I've seen from it, it doesn't look that bad, but it doesn't look that great either. I mean, the performances I think from what I've seen, carried the load, so maybe that's the thing that carries the film over the edge for most people. But to me, from the little bits I've seen from it, not really something I really want to go back and check out anytime soon. Despite the good talent involved there, it just doesn't feel like anything more than just an Oscar bait movie. But with that said, that's In the Bedroom. Now let's move on to the last film we have here, and that is Guillermo del Toro's The Devil's Backbone. So this is a story that takes place in the final year of the Spanish Civil War, following a boy who's left in an orphanage operated by Republican loyalists and haunted by the ghost of a recently deceased boy. You see a little bit from the trailer there. This film gets pretty intense. I mean, for the most part, the movie gets really, really intense on a number of different levels. And this is where Guillermo del Toro really shines as a director. He did this with Kronos, and he would later do it again with Pan's Labyrinth, which is part of the big Criterion collection that this movie is in. It's a really good movie, man. It's a really intense film. Really delivers on a lot of good visual fear. Like, the horror aspects of the film is very good. The tension is very solid. You fear for this kid's life throughout the course of the movie. And it's an interesting little political allegory, too, surprisingly. And it's a subtle one, too, which is really something to say. But, yeah, it's a really good movie. I mean, this is definitely, if you love Guillermo del Toro, you're going to eat this up pretty quickly. It's definitely worth a watch. The Devil's Backbone.
Unless we're parked in San Diego Bay, you're at war every time you step on this boat. You understand that? We pretend we're in the middle of a fight. We're not fighting. We're watching. You should be glad you're not in a fight, Lieutenant. You wouldn't last long.
In a world where outlaw armies wage a secret war, the Navy's most powerful ship is not free to strike back.
You understand how important it is that your pilots don't stray from the big fly zone.
And no one felt it more than Lieutenant Chris Burnett.
Don't you forget what you're doing. Are you kidding me? I'm eating Jell-O. He's wiping his hands.
But on a routine reconnaissance mission,
Could be a good opportunity to test our shiny new digital camera.
he saw something no one was supposed to see.
Eliminate the problem.
So we've lost a bird. What the hell happened?
Archangel is down, and I am on the run.
Evade and survive. Do whatever it takes. Do you have any idea how much damage this incident may cause to the peace process? All I know, Admiral, is that our man is down behind enemy lines. Now what is the problem? I am an American. I am on your side.
20th Century Fox presents
They killed my pilot because we took pictures of the graves and I know where they are. I'm gonna get them.
I'm not gonna let that kid die out there. You will lose your command. So be it.
Owen Wilson, Gene Hackman,
Gentlemen, I intend to put you in harm's way. Any man who doesn't wish to join this mission, step away right now.
behind enemy lines.
So in the movie, you have Owen Wilson as Lieutenant Chris Burnett, who's an American naval flight officer who was shot down over Bosnia and uncovers genocide during the Bosnian War. Meanwhile, the Rear Admiral, played by Gene Hackman, commanding the carrier strike group to which he is assigned to, is struggling to gain approval to launch a combat search and rescue mission to save Burnett. This is actually based on an incident in 1995. I'm gonna completely botch this. MRKONJIC, the McCronjic Grad incident. If I got that wrong, I apologize. I'm just reading it off of here, but that occurred during the war. But yeah, you could pretty much tell this movie was pretty much dead in the water because of two things. One, Owen Wilson. Now, Owen Wilson is not a bad actor. He's not a bad actor by any means necessary. I just feel like he was completely miscast for this particular role. I feel like he could have gotten somebody like a Ben Affleck or somebody who could do more action type of movies here. But Owen Wilson's mostly known for doing more comedic stuff, sometimes dramatic stuff here and there. And like, this is one of those movies where I feel like he was miscast completely. But the other key thing that made this movie automatically say that this is not going to be good is the director of this, John Moore. John Moore would later go on to direct such classic movies as the 2006 remake of The Omen and his grand opus of a masterpiece, A Good Day to Die Hard. And he also did Max Payne, which Max Payne was I'm kind of neutral on that one. That's probably his best film overall, which isn't really saying a whole lot. And this film here, there's a good concept overall in here. There's a good idea here in general, and I think Gene Hackman does the best he can to try to save the material. But other than that, though, it's Owen Wilson in this performance where I feel like he's completely miscasted here, and the movie seems way too jingoistic in a lot of different ways, and it just really doesn't work in this film, and it runs a little bit too long too. I think this is about 2 hours long, and like it drags on. It really does drag on, and a lot of this movie really does not work on a number of different levels. I mean, it's a film that probably had some good potential to it, but one, you had a bad director. Two, really bad casting on the part of Owen Wilson. I feel like he could have gotten somebody better for that role, and a better script probably would have helped this out in a long run. But other than that, though, it's a mostly forgettable film. It's a film that's just kind of like, it's there. It's not the worst, but it certainly could have been a whole lot better. But yeah, it just doesn't work for me. Behind Enemy Lines. That's all I got to say about that one. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, and that is Texas Rangers.
Before there was law, there were the Rangers. James Vanderbeek, Dylan McDermott, Usher Raymond, Ashton Kutcher, Lenore Varela, and Rachel Lee Cook. Texas Rangers.
Speaking of warning signs all throughout this film, I feel like this film definitely had a lot of different warning signs to it, but this is set after the American Civil War in the 1870s, and it's a story about a group of men determined to maintain peace and contain the chaos that is erupting on the Texan frontier. Native Americans are attempting to reclaim the land, Mexicans are pouring over the U.S. border, and renegade outlaws are tearing up the state. So the Texas Rangers swear to protect the innocent and their loved. They must be willing to maintain the peace when law enforcement cannot. Fight when they are manned and outarmed by the opponent, and be willing to die for the freedom for which they fight. God, I wish this was a movie about the baseball team that just won the World Series, because I think that would have been a bit more interesting movie. But no, you got a film that's clearly trying to be another Young Guns. Yep, we have two movies in 2001 that were trying to be the next Young Guns. We talked about American Outlaws, and I'm like, look at the cast in this movie: James Vanderbeek, Rachel Lee Cook, Ashton Kutcher, Dylan McDermott, Usher. You have Randy Travis in here, Robert Patrick, Oded Fair, John Abrams, Lenore Valera. I mean, these are very young people. Most of these people in this movie are very young, and it doesn't help that this movie was also sitting on a shelf for 2 years, too. So, yeah, this thing was pretty much dead on arrival. I mean, as dated as something as Young Guns was, it still holds up much better than the movies we've looked at in this year, like American Outlaws and this film, because it was written better, and it had better actors attached to it, and it knew what it was trying to accomplish. Even Young Guns 2, which is not a good sequel, it's still much better than anything that came out this year. I mean, I don't know what they were trying to do around this time period. I mean, I don't know what they were trying to think about with these movies, but it's like they saw Young Guns and said, let's just put the youngest actors we have available, and then the rest will sell itself. We don't even need a good script or anything, but, yeah, you kind of need a good script, especially for a movie like this. But then again, it was sitting on a shelf for 2 years prior, so that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how bad this sucker is. So, yeah, avoid Texas Rangers.